Okay, so I'm going to go through your first essay writing lesson with you. Again, I'm going to upload these, so have a look through. That's really, really important. If you're watching these videos, it's because you have to follow along with these lessons as well. Otherwise, you will be very, very behind. So this one is about understanding exams and how you create a suitable exam response. So the question's going to be broken down into two parts, and it's really important that you do both parts. So you'll be given an extract. So it will be like a speech from Macbeth. And then you are going to, with that extract, have to actually analyse it and comment on how the theme is shown in that extract. So, for example, if I give you the speech that Banquo says to Macbeth when he says, "The instruments of darkness tell us truths," when he tells Macbeth, you know, evil people lie. If I were to give you that and say to you, how is Banquo shown in this extract and how is Banquo shown in the play as a whole? That would be the type of question you'd get. So you'd have to comment on both. You would have to say, this is how Banquo is shown in the speech and this is how he is shown later on in the play. You do about one or two peels based on the speech and then a couple of peels based on the rest of the play, and then you've got a finished essay. So the first part is really about giving you something to start off with. So you want to see the first part as a sort of jumping off point. So here is what Banquo's like in this part. Here is what Banquo's like in the rest of the play. So you want to sort of make that your jumping off point. So in the second part of your essay, you talk about the play as a whole. Okay. Top tip as well, please don't write novel or poem. It's a play. So when you're doing the close analysis, they're going to look for word level analysis. That's specifically what they'll start looking out for here. Okay, so I've got some examples of how are Banquo's reactions to the supernatural presented. And then this question the second part of this question would be how are attitudes to the supernatural presented in the play as a whole. So if you have a look at the model, the fact that the witches deliver the prophecy may cause the audience to feel a sense of foreboding. Banquo questions the witch's honesty as he exclaims, "What can the devil speak true?" He describes the witches as a messenger or as messengers of the devil, associating the witches with a corrupt and dark evil. Okay, so I'm switching to the next one. So you can see there where you're zooming in on the word devil. So that's what's making this actually really, really good. You're zooming in on that word. You're saying, what can the devil speak true? He's calling them devils. He's saying they're evil. He's saying they're terrible. He doesn't agree with them. And if you look at the second slide, it goes on a little bit as well. It suggests that they're unworthy. So he is shocked when something they say has come true. So Banquo is actually quite a strong person. He's realizing that the evil is there to win us to our harm. Banquo suggests that the witches Banquo suggests we can't trust the witches. Banquo suggests we can't trust the witches. Sorry, there's a bit of a typo there. Banquo suggests that we can't trust the witches and should question the prophecy, as it may be a terrible thing. During Shakespearean times, witches were a source of fear for many people. James I, the king, who Shakespeare wrote for, had shown an interest in witchcraft. This further supports the idea that Shakespeare has sent this prophecy in the form of an untrustworthy source in order to create a sense of dread for his audience. So, Shakespeare's using the witches to make us aware that something bad will happen later on in the play, and that bad thing is going to be Macbeth murdering people. So you'll look at how the AOs are presented on here. So any AO where I'm linking back to what the writer was trying to do, AO1. Anywhere where I'm zooming in on words, AO2, and anywhere where I'm using that context is AO3, and that's really, really good here. So you've got AO1, AO2, and AO3 in both of these paragraphs, so they are good paragraphs. The first one that you'll see, the longer one, is better, and you'll notice that's because it's got a little bit more word level analysis. It's talking about Macbeth's downfall later on in the play, but if you're struggling, just look at this one, because this one is still a really, really good one. This could get you a 4 or a 5, and that's what you want. So start off with aiming for the 4 and the 5. So have a look at that second one, okay? So, I don't know why I'm doing that, my mouse is there. Right, so when you're creating a peel, the question is going to be, how does Shakespeare present Lady Macbeth's attitudes towards ambition? So I'm going to set that for you, and that's going to be your classwork for today. It's going to be, how does how does Shakespeare present Lady Macbeth's attitudes towards ambition? So how is she shown to be a really, really ambitious person? So when you're planning this out, you need to see, where does Lady Macbeth sort of express her desire to be really powerful? Are there any interesting phrases that she uses? Any interesting words? If you zoom in on the word unsexed, why does she want to be unsexed? What was the female sex associated with at the time? So start thinking about that. Okay, so when you're looking at Lady Macbeth's attitudes towards ambition, that's what you want to focus on, okay? That's the big thing. This is a peer marking sheet. Now, you're not obviously going to be able to peer mark because social distancing. So, you will notice it says what AO1, AO2 and AO3 are. So you've got them there for you. AO1 is understanding the text and answering the question. AO2 is analysing the writer's methods. In this case, we'll be analysing language. And AO3 is linking it to context, okay? So saying why Shakespeare was doing this. So what was going on in history that made Shakespeare do this? So AO3, for the Lady Macbeth question, is mainly going to be about women and how women are treated. So there's a big, big hint that will help you do this piece of classwork. Okay, so big hint. Okay, so this is where you would begin to peer mark. Now, what's really important, and I'll lead you through it, what's really important when you're doing this is to understand that you need to take into account a lot of different things. So, I'll talk you through this. Right. Got my book. Okay. So, when we look at Lady Macbeth, and when you go to her speech, which is in the Macbeth book that I've given you, so have a look at the Macbeth book that I've given you, this is when Lady Macbeth comes in, and she starts talking about Duncan coming to this place. So, you'll notice that on page 14. So I'm going to look over here, right? I'm going to look over here. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to start thinking about how is Lady Macbeth presented as ambitious? Right, I'm going to have to plan out what I'm going to say. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down a line of argument. So depending on how in-depth you want that line of argument to be, it's up to you. So my line of argument, and you can start writing this if you're, sorry, just got to get rid of a notification, if you are writing out your essay right now. So let's start thinking about that. Right, so how is Lady Macbeth presented as ambitious? So I might say Lady Macbeth is ambitious in the play because she wishes to be queen and gain power. This was strange for a woman at that time, as they had very little power in Jacobean times. And Jacobean means, it's the way that you say the time that King James I was ruling. So in Victorian times it would be Victorian, because that was Queen Victoria. Because this is James I, we say Jacobean. So that's my line of argument. And then once I've got my line of argument all clearly written down, if I'm pushing for a grade 9, just down here I want to start writing about what Shakespeare's message is about women in power. Do you think Lady Macbeth is positive or negative? So if you want to add on to that, you can. But if we're aiming, we're gonna keep it low for a second, unless you are in top set or second set. I will expect you to go higher, or a ones. Well, really any ones and 1 stars. Think about the point. Okay, so then we'll start to talk about how she's presenting herself as powerful. So she sort of says, let's see. She then says, if we start off with, over here, let's have a look at page 15. She says, under my battlements. So I'll start off like that. So, Shakespeare presents Lady Macbeth as quite violent, as she calls their home her battlements. Right, go from there. Okay, so that's about as much as I'm going to write for you, and I will show it to you. There we go. Right, that's about as much as I'm going to write for you. Okay, so you can start yourself off here if you're really struggling. Why does she use the word battlements? Why is that important? The fact that she says the word battlements to talk about their home when women were meant to take care of the home. Why is that important? And also, how is Lady Macbeth, start off with pages 14 and 15, how is she presented as terrible? What does she do towards the end? Does this also portray her as a bad person? Okay, so this is what you need to start thinking about, and this is what you need to start working your way through. So, I'll leave you there. If you want to know, if you want those sentence starters, then go back in the video and pause it. You can copy that and improve it, or you can copy it and carry it on, whichever one you feel most comfortable with when you're thinking about the character of Lady Macbeth. Okay, so start off there for me.